downgrade to just a simple browser, like what Mozilla is doing. They're developing Firefox OS. So I think the idea is similar. They are using JavaScript, and since HTML5 is more and more accepted by people, so the power they can handle the file system.
Yes.
So they are thinking, okay, OS can downgrade to just a simple browser.
That word, downgrade. Maybe it's an upgrade. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the back end, the lower end of the stack, where it relies on lower level systems. Maybe Mathieu wants to. No. Yeah.
I don't think I think Firefox OS is going much further than what GNOME is doing. GNOME they just build their shell using CSS and JavaScript, but it's still based on a classic Linux desktop stack. So you have an init manager, you have the Linux kernel, of course, you have all these things. Mozilla for Firefox OS, they just went away with all that. They have a kernel, they have an incredibly minimal thing that can run what is basically a web browser, and that's it. So they really went much further with Firefox OS.
Yeah, I guess they can't run native apps, then it's all web apps.
I don't think you can yet.
Right. So it's a question for the future direction. This is where a demo happens. Yeah, so we're going to look at these dimensions. So up first, search. Mathieu already talked about search providers. So here's an example of the SSH, where you just type in the address, and you you look so happy. And you can just fire away, interrupt, and your shell into another machine. Yeah. Oh yeah, there is the window search provider. So if you really don't want to use the mouse and try and find, you can just search for the title of a window and switch it that way. Browsing. Okay. It was very painful to try and find examples of where we can still get back to browsing enhancements, because it seems like such a regression. But yeah, there's this a Zeitgeist framework which tracks everything that you do on your machine, so that it gives you some heuristics to find documents again. So if you're more familiar with like when you last used the app instead of the file name or the space on the file system, you can use Zeitgeist. It keeps a journal of what you do and browse to your files that way. Of course, you can also get the application menus back with the help of extensions. Yeah, there's lots of helpful shortcuts in GNOME already, but there's also an extension that makes more elements available, like the message tray. You couldn't click on it because it moved. Well, you could also just use the keyboard shortcuts, and then it wouldn't move around. It was great. This is your regular keyboard shortcuts, which are highly configurable. And the window navigator, again, this displays, you can see it like a small number. So if you go in the overview, you can click 1 and it goes to the first window. And for pointer interfaces, this sees to be like a lot of work. Like it's would require such a big overhaul that there's not a lot of things that have been done yet. The only thing I can recommend is using GNOME Tweak Tool again, if you go to fonts and there's the text scaling factor, and because everything is vector based, if you set this to 1.2, 120%, everything becomes larger and it becomes easier to use as a touch-based OS. Again, not ideal, but we'll get there. So to enhance the minimalism of the OS, you can add extensions to remove features. You can remove the activities button in the corner. You can get rid of the rounded corners, and you can also get rid of some contacts or some search providers, so it becomes leaner and doesn't mess up your search results. So exposed. I guess you're also all quite familiar with this extensions that add a row of icons on the top bar, your favorites. Zeitgeist also powers jump lists, just like in Windows 7, where you have a history of the files that you've opened with a particular app. And of course the always present dock replacement thing that you can customize to do and show whatever, and it'll always be there at the bottom of your screen with your favorite apps, and it'll also track whatever application's open. Yeah, pretty much we're already there, digitally native. There's not a lot more that you could want to do. So going the other way, introducing fabrics and materials into the operating system is done through theming. So if you can't help yourself, if you really need brushed aluminium, you can have a copy from an old OS X look, and you can overlay it in the GNOME shell. Yeah. So the biggest gripe that a lot of these supposed power users had was that they couldn't get anything done. If you search for getting things done plus GNOME, you get a million hits. But when I actually looked at their reasons, it had a lot to do with window management. They seemed to think that because full-screen apps were prioritized, or it makes the most sense within the workflow, they couldn't have a browser open at the same time as their editor at a test suite, and tiling, right?
Yeah.
Tiling systems, they're great at that. Yeah. So so there's two extensions that I suggest for using if you want to overcome those obstacles. They are automatically moving windows. So if there's a class of programs, let's say your text editor and like a certain browser that you will always want to have on the first workspace, do that. Your text editor, your email application somewhere else maybe, and yeah, if you want to watch a video, or your torrents, or somehow